Today for field training, we're going to be taking a look at the Haix Scouts. These are hiking boots that I purchased a little over a year ago to replace a pair of very similar looking boots by another manufacturer. I use these primarily for when I'm going to be out of uniform and for recreational usage, mostly hiking and backpacking. I've been pretty happy with these boots, and I'm going to go over some of the features that I like and some things that I dislike about them today. One awesome thing about these boots is that currently they are being replaced with the Haix Scouts 2s. You can get an awesome deal on these. I paid over $200 for these boots, but right now they are only like $175 as long as you can find them in your size. And that is a really awesome deal for what you're getting from this boot. So when I decided I wanted to replace these, which you've seen on my shelf for a long time because I no longer use them, with these, I was looking for a particular set of things. One thing was I spent a lot of time in the woods, moving and very active. And so something that was important to me was a rubberized toe, because I tend to kick a lot of things, and when I'm working side jobs or I am at work, I tend to nick up the toes of my boots a lot. So I don't really need a safety toe. I'm not doing anything where I'm going to be possibly dropping heavy things on my foot, but I do need something that's going to protect the leather on the toe of the boot. That was important to me. I like nutbuck leather. It's very easy to waterproof. I would prefer the whole thing being nutbuck leather, but the Cordura nylon on the side allows a lot more breathability. We'll talk about that a little bit in a second. This also came with the added benefit of a polymer heel cup. Like I said, have had this for over a year, and they still haven't separated at all in normal use. I've used these in the summer to take my kids hiking. I've used them in the winter to go sledding. I've used them for just about everything, and I've been really happy with the protection that it affords. One thing to know about nutbuck, and one thing I kind of liked about these, and I wanted to carry over with these, I prefer the look of them, especially for hiking and stuff. The tactical black boots don't make a lot of sense for when you're out in the woods. These blend a little better. They also don't show dirt as easily. You can't tell. These are actually pretty filthy from being out in the woods with them for over a year. One thing I like about Haix, and the reason I looked at their stuff, is the vibram soles that they use on these boots. Now, obviously, I'm not using these on concrete a lot. They're spending most of their time, when I decide to use these boots, it's when I'm going to be outdoors, in the dirt and the mud, on trails, things like that. And so I don't have the excessive amount of wear you're going to see on hiking boots when they get used on concrete a lot. You use hiking boots on concrete, you tend to wear down the lugs on the back of the heel, because hiking boots have a very soft sole on them. The reason that I like the way Haix does it is they put not only large deep grooves so it ejects snow and mud once it gets in there and gets you traction on those, but in dry conditions they have these little mini sipes, which, as long as you're not using them on concrete too much, tend to stick around for quite a while. That gives you lots and lots and lots of traction, especially on dirt where you're going to seize into those little sipes. It gives you that little extra bit of traction. These are Gore-Tex, which is a big boost up from what I had before. I don't generally need Gore-Tex. It is nice to be able to, pick my daughter up and just walk her through a narrow creek without having to worry about getting water into the boot. But most boots, if you just spray them down with some waterproof on this outside, they're going to stay mostly waterproof for you. It wasn't a huge deal, but it was a nice little added bonus. I also wanted something with at least a polymer, PVC, or fiberglass shank in it. That's big when you're actually out hiking through the woods, or you're in kind of rough terrain, especially on large rocks and stones, where you're not going to twist your ankle. And that's where I think these, even though they're marketed as a hiking boot, are really more of a backpacking boot. There's excellent ankle support, and the shank in it is really, really good. I never feel like I'm going to twist my ankle when I step on something. You can actually see the chassis of that, what I'm assuming is the chassis of that, all the way around the back of the boot. It looks like a 3/4 PVC shank in there. As far as day-to-day use, you can see kind of the condition they end up in over the course of a year. There's nutbuck, of course, is always going to, when you get it wet and it's not perfectly waterproof, it's going to change colors. Also, when you waterproof them, they tend to change color. Mostly they get a little darker. There's a 2-zone lacing system. So on this, the bottom section of the boot here, you tighten the bottom section of boot, and then these little D-rings on the end actually lock in place. So I can lock the bottom section of the boot and then fasten the top end of the boot. And then this, you don't really need to tie knots in your boots and then have a bunch of laces that you have to tuck in, which would create a wear spot between the boot and your feet. You can just tighten using this little doojagle on the end, and it loosens the same way. You just pull up on these two little clips and they loosen it up. And then once it's tight, you can tuck the whole thing into a little garage that they have on the side of the boot, so you don't have any wear spots on the side of your foot from tucking laces. This is a big advantage when you're hiking through the woods and there's sticks and things that like to catch onto your laces, especially when you're styling like me, wearing midweight backpacking boots or midweight hiking or light hiking boots with shorts. I'm nothing if not stylish. One thing I don't like about them is that because it's a Gore-Tex liner and that's how most of the waterproofing is accomplished, in the winter time, if you get these into snow and the snow starts to melt on the boot, it can melt into the nylon and then get cold water right up against the Gore-Tex liner that's right up against your foot. So this isn't a winter weight boot. I do use them in winter. I do tend to find that if I'm just running in and out, doing some errands, snow builds up on the polymer toe cap and it's not an issue. But if you're in deep snow, if you're ankle deep or above snow, the snow starts getting in, the heat from your foot, because this is not an insulated boot, is going to come out, it's going to melt the snow, it's going to get inside. So it's definitely not for sitting outside for long periods of time. For that, you're going to want something that's got some insulative factor to it, something with 600 or 1,000 gram insulation. For summertime and for hiking or for side jobs that are going to take you out into the wilderness, which is mostly what I use this for, of course, it's a really great durable boot that doesn't show a lot of filth and dirt on it and protects the areas of the boot that mostly wear out the quickest. I haven't had any issues with the liner, and the liner's been keeping my feet pretty cool in there. Nothing's ripping or anything after 1.5 years of use, so that's pretty good. And I haven't had any hardware failures. And normally with hiking boots, what I end up with is hardware failures. You get some boots that have either nylon cord or nylon strapping that gets sewn into the boot and comes out, and if it's not riveted in and really in place really well, those can pop loose, and that's mostly the problems that I have with boots. I like to keep my boots nice and tight because of course I have problems with my ankles that I've had my entire life. So if you're looking for a hiking boot and you want to save a boatload of cash on something that is really good, now is the time to strike on these, because the 2.0 version is out. When these wear out, I will probably give those a shot because I am so happy with the money I spent on these. I just wish I had spent $175 instead of $200 and whatever it was they ended up spending. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about these, throw them down in the comments down below, but I don't think you're going to have any concerns with them if you go get these. I'm pretty happy with them. So that's the Haix Scout. Until next week, you guys be safe. Take care of each other. Hey, thanks for watching Free Field Training on YouTube. And while you're here, why don't you check out some of these other goofy videos that I've made? Or you could subscribe or maybe go over to Patreon and see how you get your name put on the videos like these fine folks over here. All the links are, of course, down in the description. We'll see you guys next time.